I want you guys to know that I record a new podcast every Monday, and this is something I started at the beginning of this year. I had these ideas that I wanted to put out a podcast that's about 15 minutes long, somewhere around in there, give or take, on different types of topics. Not really current events, but different types of topics. Some of them have been current events, but we only have, with the inclusion of tomorrow, we only have 5 Mondays left in this year before we, break into the new year. So if you haven't listened to any of the previous podcasts, make sure you go back and listen to those. I have over 75 episodes of the Mega Talks podcast. If you're on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you're at, go check out the episode. I have some uploaded to YouTube. They're all on the Podbean, podbean.com. Just look for the Mega Talks podcast and you'll find all those. But this is, I'm going to get into this podcast today. And it's one that I recorded on procrastination. So let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody, for another episode of the Mega Talks podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about procrastination. And procrastination is something that I kind of dove into, took the liberty to study. It's probably back around 2013, sometime around then. I heard a podcast with a guy talking about it and explaining different things about procrastination, and made me take a closer look at it, because it's something that everybody does on a certain level. And the thing about procrastination, it can be used as a benefit, but it also can be somewhat of a crutch, and it also can be something that is just a huge disbenefit if you want to use that term. So in some ways it's going to help people, in other ways it's going to hurt people, and a lot of it's trying to identify your style of how much procrastinating that you do. And some of it comes down to when procrastinating is not good for you, is eliminating that procrastination. And if you don't procrastinate at all, maybe it's something that you try out and give yourself some pressure and see how you react to the pressure. Now, when you think about procrastination, oftentimes you think of, you have a deadline that you're working for and you have to have it, done before then. It's not very often that you look at procrastination in your everyday life as when you don't have a deadline for something, but you have an idea of what you want to do. Maybe it involves your life, somebody else's life, or just a project that you have in mind, but you don't have a deadline for it. So you don't really feel the pressure. Some people don't like that feeling of pressure because they know they can live up to those, that goal or that expectation, and they're not comfortable in that realm. Procrastination means that you're not going to do something, or you're going to wait to do something. But let me give you some examples. Like, you have things that you should do. Now, knowing that you have things that you should do, you try to follow through with those things. You set your goal, you create your goal, you write those goals down. It's something that you take smaller steps to work towards. And this is something I've went over in other podcasts before, setting goals and things like that. Now, you also have those things you would like to do. And those things that you would like to do are those things that usually you don't put a deadline on yourself. Some people will put deadlines on the things that they want to do. When you set that deadline, you focus on that achievement. You're loyal to yourself. You're honest with the things that you do and how you work towards it, and the things that you don't do, not to work towards it. Because when it comes down to it, you're fully in control of the things that surround you in your life, and that your thoughts, your actions, you're totally in control of those things. Nobody else has control. And some people would lead you to believe that you do not have a choice of some of the decisions in your life. But that very word of not having a choice is the opposite. You always have a choice. you always have a choice of what you want to do. You may feel the pressure of leaning one way or the other, but you always have a choice. Now, the third thing is like what are the things that you do when you procrastinate? Because you obviously have set some type of goal or something that you're working towards, and then you neglect it, and you neglect that by procrastinating. Some people procrastinate by they play video games, they talk to people on the phone, they watch TV. Some people sleep. Some people even take it upon themselves to do chores around the house. And what I mean by chores is just they clean. They tidy things up in the house, a way of procrastinating. It's like they're want to follow through with the thing they know they should, but something holds them back. And even the person that's watching TV or playing video games always has that in the back of their mind, the things they should be doing and working towards. But for whatever reason, they don't take action. Some people claim that it's motivation, but motivation is not even the same thing. A lot of times motivation is confused with something else. But you must have action to beat that procrastination. But knowing those three things, there's good procrastination, there's bad procrastination, like I was talking about. Let's take a look at the bad procrastination. You have a deadline you're working towards. Maybe you have a paper or something to write. Like I do this podcast, and some podcasts I'll record ahead of time. Sometimes, I may wait until the last minute to do one. Just depends on the subject and how I feel. And some of that is procrastination. If I procrastinate and I wait up until the last minute, sometimes I come up with my best work then. Sometimes I have good ideas. Sometimes I fall on my face. Sometimes it's not so good, and I have to, maybe take me a little bit longer. The bad procrastination, how do you know it's bad? As well, you get bad results, and you know that style doesn't work for you. If you procrastinate and you wait up until the last day, last 24 hours, or maybe the last hour, and you try and cram for a test, or you try and stuff a lot of information in at once, and and you fall on your face, you fail. Well, that style of procrastination isn't going to work for you when you're waiting to the last minute. Which, on the flip side, there's some people that love that pressure. They feed off that pressure. Some people, if they don't have the pressure, they don't feel like they're accomplishing anything. They will wait until later in the game when they can feel the pressure, because they use that pressure as their energy to propel them forward. That's something that's usually a gift to most. Others can learn to make those adaptations, but they have to have the mindset to be able to adapt. And most don't have that mindset to adapt, but they have the mindset that they'll procrastinate and wait to the last minute, and then everything falls apart and they don't get it done. That leads to a whole lot of other set of circumstances. So that method, procrastinating and waiting to the last minute, good for some, bad for others. Now, like I said, there's good and there's bad procrastinating. There's procrastinating, and some people, they will procrastinate later in the game. It's like they'll binge, like you binge watch a show, you jump right on it. As soon as you have a deadline of something, you jump right on it, and you get maybe 75%, 80% of the project or goal completed. And something in your mind, maybe you reach a block and you just stop, and you linger and time passes by. You've got the majority of it done, so you now feel like you can coast instead of completing the project. And then you come in at the last minute and you have that little bit of pressure to finish up the project or the goal or whatever you have. And like before, some people work well like that and it works for them. Others, if they have that lingering procrastination, that lag there in the middle, they fall apart and they can't come back and they can't perform in whatever it is to complete that goal. And when you take a look at these things, you really have to find what type of method works for you. If you know you procrastinate, what type of procrastination do you do? Or is it right up front? You procrastinate, you let things simmer and come in at the last minute and complete everything? Or do you procrastinate on the back end? Or do you procrastinate in the middle and kind of coast? And when you kind of identify your style, you can make it work to your advantage. But if none of those are your style, then procrastination is not for you. But this is something that people will carry in all aspects of their life. It's not just completing the homework assignment or anything like that. It's in everything that you do. You carry this style into your job, even your personal adventures in your life. Maybe it's an activity or a hobby or something that you have that is something that you actually enjoy. Like I'm a musician. I enjoy recording. I enjoy playing. Sometimes there's that pressure, and how do you handle that pressure? So take a look, identify your style, and try to adapt to that and make it work for you. If it's something that you're really uncomfortable with, you're going to have to learn how to make those changes. And if no procrastination works for you, after you experiment with those, then you need to learn how to balance everything out and take the necessary steps forward, whether those are small steps or big steps. You have to figure those things out. So I hope this is giving you some perspective on procrastination. When you hear the words, it's not just a total bad connotation and a bad stigma about the word. But take some time, identify your style and make it work for you, and go out there and achieve those goals. Go out there and knock them down. But with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you tune in every Monday and enjoy the Mega Talks podcast. And I'll get with you guys on the next one.